What's up, Alex? How can I help?
I'm 31, in the process. I have a fiance. We're in the process of planning our wedding and doing the baby steps. Just to provide a little context, we're on baby step 2, just running through it as quick as we can.
Getting all your debt paid off, huh?
Yeah, picked up a side gig, doing good as far as that's concerned. But where it gets a little messy is my family is going through a bit of a financial hard time, which is not normal. It's just they're in a bit of a transition period. And I know from listening to the show, the Dave Ramsey show, that like the right thing to do is take care of me so that I'm in a position to take care of them, or, just prioritize my own family. And I understand that, but it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good to be making, big payments towards my debt and essentially building my future. But then my parents, even though this situation, may be temporary, are not in the same position. That doesn't emotionally. That's hard to carry. That cinder block's hard to carry, to use your analogy.
Look at that! Look at you, Alex. So hey,
I listen a lot.
Well, I appreciate that. So, are you feeling this from them, or is this just something you're carrying around?
No. It's just.
Are they hitting you up for money and saying, "Man, it must be nice," and we don't have any heat
not
or anything?
at all.
Okay.
Yeah, not at all. They would want nothing more than, me to be able to progress the way that I have. And there's no ask from them at all. This is just an internal thing. Have
you ever taken your dad out or your mom out and just said, "Hey, tell me what's going on. Looks like things are hard. Talk me through it. We're both grown-ups and about to get married. Like, what's going on?" Could y'all have that conversation?
Yeah. So we have a great rapport, my parents and I. So I know what's going on, basically.
Okay.
Basically it's just my dad is in a bit of a career transition. He works in the automotive industry. Mm-hmm. Things have changed. They would rather hire, 5 people and pay them a low salary versus hire 1 and pay them a high salary. So there's a bit of a transition there, and he's working through it, and I think it'll be fine. They're not in dire straits or anything. It's just it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to make a big student loan payment when I know that they're just not able to live the way that they typically live. Sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how can I help you, man?
I guess I come from a place where you always take care of your family, and now that I'm engaged, even though we're not married, I was always taught that, once you are engaged, you take care of your family. So I understand that what I'm doing is taking care of my family, but not to sound like a broken record, I want to know how to feel better. You know what I mean? How do you balance that?
Yeah.
How do you balance taking care of your own family and while knowing that the other side of the family is not on the same page,
Yeah. So, how honest do you want me to be with you?
100%.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
All right. Here's the honest truth. Nothing. When you love somebody and they're hurting, you're going to hurt too. When you put up boundaries that are going to keep you well and whole, protect your family, and not only protect, that sounds so draconian and dramatic, to keep you healthy, to keep you alive, to keep you whole, so that you can be in service to other people. When you do that, it hurts because people, they want to hit their head up against that boundary, or you can look over your boundary and see that they're struggling, and you recognize in your heart you're not in any sort of shape to go out there and help them, right? And so you're just kind of stuck. And you can be a presence, you can be positive, you can connect, but you can't solve their problem. And there's a feeling of powerlessness there that just hurts, right? And there's something about, I wish I had a less lame word. There's something about growing up. You just recognize that sometimes in life things just suck. They just hurt, man. And there's no magic solution other than to sit next to folks and say, I hate this for you. And man, I've had taken calls, you've probably heard them, where parents are calling their kids begging for money, and they're trying to keep up a lifestyle. They're trying to keep up a situation, right? And That's even harder, but it's easier, right? Because I can get angry at those parents for preying on their children. This isn't that way. It just sounds like you've got a big, huge heart. You have a great, close family, and you're just watching them kind of flounder around a little bit, and it hurts.
Yeah, I've kind of learned this year that sometimes making the best decision hurts the most. And I think maybe this is one of these scenarios.
Yeah. So here's the typical, and I'm gonna over stereotype this. I'm gonna overgeneralize it and over gender it. Okay. What a lot of guys do in your situation is they start flexing, and they withdraw. And they just seek out numbing behaviors, whether that's I'm going to work some more hours, I'm going to get another side gig, I'm going to learn the drums, I'm going to have 2 extra drinks, I'm going to fill in the blank, right? And what I would challenge you with as you're entering into a lifelong commitment, as you're entering off the edge of off the high dive here and starting your new marriage, I want you to develop an ability to be vulnerable with your fiance, with your future wife. Be vulnerable with your buddies that you have here in town, that you may still have from college, that you have at work, that are safe and people that you trust. But man, start practicing. Hey, this is hard. I'm really struggling with my parents' situation, and I'm spending all this money. You can even sit down with your fiance if you haven't already. I'm sure you have, but say, I know this is going to be weird, but I just need to be vulnerable and say, I'm really struggling. My parents are struggling, and it just makes me sad. And I'm sorry about that. And hopefully she is of the caliber of person that's going to say, I hate that for you, and is going to give you a hug, and y'all are going to watch a show together and do whatever, go for a walk, whatever the thing is going to be. But I don't want you to experience this pain and immediately run from it. Okay?
Okay.
It can be.
I appreciate that.
All right, is that what you're doing?
Yeah. I mean, I probably worked 85 hours last week just to stay busy.
Just running. Yeah. Working 85 hours when you're in baby step 2 and you're trying to, for those of you who don't know what that is, that's, man, it sounds like Alex and his fiance are trying to pay off everything they own, be debt free by the time they get married. Man, sometimes you work out 85 hours right before you get married. You're trying to grind it out and, get your debt paid off. That happens. But you and I both know when we double down to work more, right? I actually sent a text message to the guy that runs everything for me here and said, I'm having a rough couple of weeks. I'm going to bury myself in work over the next 2 months. I sent that, and I do this for a living, man. So this is the pot talking to the kettle here. But there's something to be said for talking to your fiance and saying, hey, I just need you to know I'm struggling. It's not you. I'm excited about our wedding. I'm excited. I love my family. I just hate to see them hurt, and I don't really have a tool set for that. And the tool set is just to sit there and let your feelings be heard. And then you got to get up and go back to work, right? But it's both and, not either or. Is she somebody you can talk to about it?
Oh yeah, for sure. So we've really emphasized communication. So I've had a conversation with her, and this is her response. The conversation went a lot like what you said, and she said to me, this is, what you're feeling right now is basically why you need to complete the baby steps. Because if you complete the baby steps, the way that Dave says, when they really do need something, we can be there for them. When we have the baby step 3 and the 4 and, all those things, we can be there for them when they really need something. That's why we need to do it. And
brother, you are marrying really well, man. Good for you.
Punching outside my weight class here.
You way outkicked your coverage on this one. Yes, that's awesome. That's just a wise person, right? If we will hurt now and do hard things right now, it's going to give us freedom that no one in our family even understands later on, right? And that doesn't make it easy. Maybe you do have the conversation. So let's say your dad doesn't get a job in the next 24 months and things get messy, right? Go ahead and have that conversation now. What would this look like for us? Or are our parents ever going to move in with us? That's a good conversation to have now, right? Yeah. And they can be hypothetical, and they can be funny, and they can be, whoa, they can live in a tent in the backyard. I mean, however y'all have conversations like that. But I'd recommend using this opportunity. And if you tell your fiance, hey, I want to practice being open about these hard things, use that language with her. It will give her some grace with you when you say things wrong and you stumble over it. It will give you permission to kind of lean into it a little bit. And hey, listen, spouses, if some partner comes to you and says, hey, I want to be vulnerable here, Don't weaponize that. Don't be ugly about it. Don't make fun of. Don't give advice. Just sit and be still. Even if it's not your picture of masculinity, even if it's not your picture of, why don't you just solve it and get over it? Don't do that, man. I hear a lot, guys who are married will say, I finally was honest. I sat down and told my wife I'm struggling. And she looked at me like I was the biggest wimp she'd ever seen. It was embarrassing. And then she will go off and tell her girlfriends, my husband's a whiner, but don't do that. Don't do that, man. If somebody gets the courage to be honest and vulnerable, please honor that moment, right? That pause in when they set their armor down, right? Honor that. Alex, you're in the right place, man. There's nothing that's going to make this go away. And I'm grateful for you for having a good heart. Good for you, man. Sit with it. Be honest. And if you can, take your dad out for coffee and just say, hey, man, how are things? Do that. It's going to build your bond with him. It's going to give you some new communication skills between you and him together. It's going to be good. So thank you so much for that call.